Call this meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. Before beginning, I'm going to just read the same statement I read before that the town clerk suggested. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Reading School Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the number that you must have called to sign in already. So, and I will make sure that after any presentation or any topics, that if there are members of the public here, they have the opportunity to be heard as well. So thank you all for coming here today. I'm going to begin with any public input since I'm not really, well, actually, let me clarify first. I want to make sure for the record, we state that in this meeting right now, myself, Scott Buckley, is here. We also have our Vice Chairman, Janine Imbriano. We also have committee members, Rich McGowan, Diana Boutwell, and Chris Papavasilio. We have our superintendent, Patrick Daly, and the assistant superintendent, Michael Connolly. So we are all here, as well as some other guests, but I want to make sure that for the record, we state that we are all participating in this meeting, and all votes will be via a roll call so that everybody is clear on who voted what way. So let's begin with so let's just begin with public input quickly, Patrick, and if there's anybody that has any matter that's not on the agenda, we will hear people, like if anybody has any questions about anything that's on the agenda, we'll make sure the public has an opportunity to speak on that beforehand, but just wondering if any members of the public have anything that's not on the agenda to speak about.
I'll just say I kind of received everyone in the room. I think I know everyone who's on the call, but if anyone does want to speak, *6 to unmute, and you can ask the question. Excellent,
thank you. And I will, when we go around for the committee members after each topic, just to try to keep a little bit of order, I will call on everybody to make sure everybody has an opportunity to be heard, and then at the end, anybody that has follow-up comments or questions will be heard as well. So, since there's no public input, let's move to the student report. We are very fortunate to have Bridget Grew, a member of the class of 2020, and the president of the Maskers. So if Bridget would like to give an update on the student report.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to participate in this, very unique. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the unique opportunities that the school closure has offered to both teachers and students. Certainly distance learning is a little unique, but I think both teachers and students alike are really making the best of it and allowing it to kind of expand into outside of curriculum topics. And personally, I'm really enjoying the different opportunities that are being presented to me. So to talk about it a little bit specifically, mostly through Google Classroom and sometimes through email communication from teachers, which thankfully we had set up in all of our classes already. Teachers are able to share a variety of resources that are unique to them. And I think, for me at least, one of the best parts of the teachers in North Reading, and teachers in general really, is like the unique passion they have for their subject and how much they work to educate themselves on it and how much it's changing outside of school. And so it's been really wonderful to be able to see like that unique passion that each teacher has, and they've been able to share it with all of the students. You know, obviously the curriculum is there for a reason, but sometimes it's easy to get kind of pigeonholed into that and forget that there's so much to learn that's happening every day. And so it's been really exciting to learn from teachers in a totally unique and different way and to kind of tackle something new together, which is very unusual. So some of the things that are being offered right now is a continuation of learning. Mr. Osting, we know from the whole year that he really loves podcasts, and he's been able to share some of those that are more AP government-based, whereas usually that doesn't necessarily fall into the AP curriculum. So it's been really enjoyable to listen to ones that he's curated for us. Mr. Kane, who I have for philosophy, has shared a variety of philosophical and ethical articles related to current events, which have been really interesting to read, and also to be able to apply what we learned earlier in the year about different facets of ethics and to be able to apply them to what's happening now. Ms. Joliebert recommended various genetic documentaries, some she included in Google Classroom and some that were already available online. So it's been really interesting to get to watch those and kind of see how they relay into everyday life. And then Mr. Putnam has offered some of his favorite pieces of literature that are outside of the AP suggested readings, but that he really enjoys, and I've been able to read a few of them, and I've really enjoyed them. And so overall, it's been a very unique time, and I think the thing I'm taking away the most is just how much teachers care about us as people, and not just as students in their class. And you can see just outside of the classroom how genuine their concern for you is, and it's really lovely. And obviously a challenging situation that's outside of everyone's control, but I can't give enough credit to the teachers and the entire administration who are just hear me?
Yes,
is everyone able to hear me?
You cut out for a second, Bridget, but you're back.
Okay, thank you. So it's really just been lovely to see how the community can come together, and really learning, I think, is supposed to be in and out of the classroom, and we're getting such a wonderful opportunity to see learning outside of the classroom. So that's the state of the school when we're not in school. Are there any questions I can answer for anyone?
So why don't we go, Janine, any comments or questions first?
Yeah, I was actually very interested to see how the education still continue in North Reading. I know the superintendent had put out a lot of different avenues to continue the varying degrees of the grades and whatnot. So it's great to hear that the teachers as well have, jumped on board or whatnot and have given avenues for continued education. So it's really nice to hear, and so just thank you for that.
Thank you.
Diana, anything?
No, I just second the fact that it's nice to hear positive feedback. It's challenging for everyone, students, parents, educators, I'm sure, but it's great to hear the positive perspective, so thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, anything?
Sure, folks, I'll echo what you just said. I think it's clear from your feedback. Thanks for giving it.
Absolutely.
Rich, anything?
Sorry, it took me a moment there. Thanks, Bridget. I really appreciate your enthusiasm as well. And I just want to add on, I've been trying to follow on Twitter what teachers have been saying on Twitter and posting amazing things and just showing their dedication, and can't thank them enough.
Thank you. And so, Bridget, I have a couple comments and questions.
Absolutely.
And then Chris has another comment too. A couple quick things. First of all, how has this impacted college applications and acceptances? Has it at all?
Well, I'm very lucky that I already knew where I was going. I don't think it's necessarily impacted any seniors as far as applications. Most of those were in. I think it's affected their ability to go to Accepted Students Day, where for a lot of students they hadn't decided on their specific school and maybe were between a few and wanted to actually see the school. they're not able to do that. So I know a lot of colleges and universities are offering online tours that they wouldn't usually offer, and so that's kind of augmenting the accepted students days, and so hopefully that will help.
Where are you going to be going?
I'm going to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh.
Impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And then my only other question was, outside of the education, has there been any social aspects? Is there any groups getting together just so that, people can get together while distancing, any Zoom for the senior class or things like that?
So we have a senior class group chat where a lot of people have been just checking in. There have been a few Zooms related to a specific class, either with or without the teacher. And I don't know, I'm very lucky. All of my classes this year are just immensely enjoyable. And so to be able to continue that with both the social aspect and the learning aspect has been lovely. So a few Zooms, and I'm a big fan of Zoom. It works really, really well. So highly recommend.
Okay, excellent. And Chris said that I covered his comment, so Bridget,
awesome.
We appreciate it. You are more than welcome to stay and listen and comment on anything you like, but at the end of the day, you are excused if you would like to be.
Thank you. Well, I'll leave you to it, and I hope you all stay well and healthy and are doing okay.
Thank you.
Bridget, I just wanted to say a couple of quick words. Thank you so much for joining us. And,
of course.
I think we all feel for seniors, and I'm hearing from a few seniors just how different it is. And this isn't an emotional year anyway, and I think it's just not what anyone expected or planned. But I love to hear that you're, I like to use the expression making lemonade. You guys are making the best of it. Everything I hear is you're doing great things, and there will be great things, and it'll be a little different, but you're going to have great memories and great celebrations, and you guys will always have stories to tell. So,
Absolutely.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. All right, have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget. Okay, moving on to new business. So the first item on the agenda is just an update on the coronavirus and the North Reading Public Schools response. Turn it over to Dr. Daly.
Great. Thank you so much. I will just, I want to thank a lot of people for today. I thought we had a very productive day today. Carrie Verdonk, our science leader at the high school, and our nurses, our nurse leader, Colleen Reska, and all of our nurses, and many other teachers chimed in with information about supplies, PPE, and gloves, masks, some other face shields and things, just different items we had in the school that we were able to donate to those that are in sort of dire need of these items. And so we called our local police and fire folks and worked with the town and the chiefs to coordinate an effort today. And we had we were able to get some of that, those supplies off, which I thought was just a great thing for today. We also, I put out a survey a few days ago to get a sense of folks in town that had students in the building that maybe had some needs for devices at home. Sometimes, there's one computer shared for the whole family, and parents are using it for work now, and kids are having difficulty trying to do some online learning. And so we put out that survey, and we were able to prepare a whole bunch of devices. Dan Downs was in here today working with Nan Cook and Nick Langford and a lot of other people to get that ready. So we had just about half of the devices have already gone out. We're going to hopefully get the rest out tomorrow. So that was very productive today as well. We've had a lot of virtual meetings. I think everyone is now proficient in Zoom and Hangouts and all that. I've had a lot of calls today with Merrimack Valley superintendents about next steps, and I communicated that I had 2 forums today with our teachers, sort of one at 2 o'clock with our secondary staff, one at 3 o'clock with our elementary staff, and then at 4 o'clock with our central office staff. And the message was consistent. Peter Cade, our NREA president, was on both calls with the teachers, and it was really nice to be able to deliver a unified message. We've really been working through this together, and every step of the way, there's lots of questions that have come up as far as human resources and what teaching and learning looks like, and we continue to work closely together on that, and I think it's been very productive. And we were able to communicate that to, it was about 300 teachers total that joined today, and it was really productive. And I think it was, it's just nice to hear people's voices and to get some questions answered. People felt like, communication's been good, and they had a lot of it. There were also additional questions that we were able to discuss today. So the big one, I think, is, do we have any other indicators about being out of school any longer? And at this time, there's nothing beyond the April 7th date, but there are some, indicators that, we should be thinking about what it would look like if we were to be closed any longer. And so we're starting to plant some of those seeds and think about what teaching and learning could look like if we have an extended closure. And I was able to really answer the question that I clarified for parents and everyone in the community the other day as well. The reasons why we're not just switching, calling these school days and moving completely to, online learning, just like it was a school day. And, the reason for that, just so everyone's clear, it's really an equity question. It's about, access for students, in this district, but also across the Commonwealth. We want to have as much equity as possible, and we don't want just some districts that have the broadband capabilities and the technology capabilities to move way ahead of those. There are districts in the parts of the state that don't have those capabilities. The other piece is with special education, with equity, and we always want to be careful when we talk about either of these situations that we're not, we're not looking to blame anyone or to talk about it in that sense that any population is challenging us in that way. But it is important to recognize that every single student deserves access to education when there is a school day. And some of those situations and circumstances are very challenging when you try to move it virtual or online. Now, that being said, I don't think any of the laws or regulations or guidance we've ever followed took into account a closure of this type. Of this length, and possible length, especially. I mean, we've only been out 7 days now, and I think this is something we've all worked with before. But I think these are new circumstances. So we're starting to see some information from the government where we might be getting more guidance about moving to some kind of instruction rather than no instruction. And so there might be some changes. And we're making some preparations for that, which I think is very important to do. And so among those changes, at the very least, would be some shifts towards more structure. I think that's what parents and students and teachers want is, right now we've been sort of providing a lot of these resources to everyone. I think the goal is to start thinking about it in terms of somewhat of a more structure where it's a little bit more guided by the teachers. We also are definitely going to do some of these social, emotional check-ins, whether they're Zooms, Hangouts, or phone calls. We've been doing a lot of that. We're going to continue to do more of that, where sometimes the students just need to come in and say hi to their classmates, and I think that's very important as well. So there's lots of great things moving, but we're, as much as we want all the answers and we want to move forward, we still need to take this day by day because so much is changing so quickly. What was true last Wednesday is definitely not true last Friday and different on Monday. So we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and rush to anything here. So we're working with our, with our town, we're working with our commissioner, we're working with groups of superintendents, and we're trying to come up with, as much of a unified response as we can. We always have to do what's best for North Reading, what's best for the students of North Reading, but we also want to try and stay with a unified voice with our colleagues as well.
Great. If I could speak a little bit on the business and operations side of things. So there's been a lot of good work and a lot of staff working hard in regard to the business operation as well as the operations of the district. I certainly want to thank Wayne Hardacre and his custodial staff for their hard work over the last 2 weeks. Completing the deep cleaning of all the schools in the district. They work tirelessly throughout each day, making sure that got done well and thoroughly. So they've just been working hard. And the food service staff, under the direction of Food Service Director Anna McGovern and Chris Callahan, our regional manager with Chartwells, they've certainly collaborated with delivering mails to those families that are in need of it during these challenging times. That started today, and my understanding is that went very, very well and very, very smooth today. So it's certainly delivery and pickup of grab-and-go both breakfast and lunch meals. So that's been a lot of good work and hard work going on there with our custodial and our food service operations. So, that their work certainly continues during the school closure period. We've had our district bus drivers have certainly stepped up and they've helped coordinate the delivery of those mails, grab-and-go mails to families today. And we've had a couple of those drivers have been very helpful in making that happen. And then our business office staff, I can't say enough about the hard work they've done and how much they've stepped up under some challenging circumstances to do their job remotely and at home and virtually connect into their desktop to process payroll timely and efficiently and process the accounts payable batches. We almost haven't missed a step in getting those two very important functions processed and moving along, over the last 2 weeks. So there's certainly been a lot of hard work and a lot of folks, stepping up under these challenging times. So I definitely want to thank all those involved.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Patrick. Rich, do you have any comments or questions?
No, other than continued deep appreciation for all you guys and everybody you mentioned. I don't have any comments.
Janine, any comments or questions?
Sorry, having a problem with my phone. Anyway, no, just the same as Rich, just to echo the hard work. Thanks for the hard work and everything that all of the administration and staff has been doing for North Reading.
Chris, any comments or questions?
If this microphone works, I'll just agree. From the students and from my perspective, it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job with an impossible set of circumstances. So thank you.
Diana, last but not least. I'm guessing she's having trouble with her mic as well. So are there any members of the public who have any comments or questions? And then I'll do my final thoughts as well. Well, I would just like to thank Michael and Patrick as well. I had a bunch of questions and I think almost all of them were answered on there. I like hearing that if it does continue that we will potentially have a little more structured learning. I think that's something that I've heard from a number of parents as well. Also, I've heard about the socialization aspect of it. My only two questions would be, first, you mentioned the Chromebooks being sent home. Depending on the need, based on the survey that is being filled out, do you think we'll be able to meet whatever that need is, Dr. Daly?
I do. I think, we've had a good return rate. We've got about 99% of the students or the families who wrote back in said they had no issues with internet connectivity. So I've reached out to those families that indicated there was an issue, and I said, I gave them all the resources because there's so many resources right now to get things for free. And so I've reached out to them as well. There was about, about 2% wrote back and said they had some Chromebook or device requests. And so we've been able to meet the need there for everyone, not necessarily one-to-one, but if we had, more than 2 students in the family, we gave at least 2 devices. So sometimes siblings might share. I'm looking at the number of households. I think we have about 2,400 students, and I think Nicole Orlando helped me see about 1,600 households. And so we've had, more than 50% of those folks have taken the survey, and so I encourage everyone to take that survey if they haven't yet, to give me more information. But I'm fairly confident that we can meet the need if we have to. But we did it. It was pretty efficient today, and if more folks have a need, they can certainly let us know, and we will try to meet that need.
Thank you very much. And the only other comment or question would just be, with looking at special education needs, I don't know what the answer is. I think every student is specifically has his or her own specific needs. But I guess the comment would just be, I hope that if it does continue, that we can try as best we can to maybe meet some of those needs. And I don't know what that takes the form of, but I know a lot of the teachers are doing really well at that, and just, I don't know, I mean, we're not going to be able to accommodate for everybody, but I just hope that we, to the extent that we can make any accommodations, that, make sure that those are made as well, so that this time can be used by all students, even if they're not school days.
Absolutely. And my team has done an amazing job. My administrative team, we've met. I have, Chris Molly up here handing out Chromebooks today. Like I said, Dan Downs was here. Others have helped me go through the buildings. Cynthia Conant's been doing a phenomenal job, along with David Cook and Gina Sacco, working with their teams. They're talking now about, not only just brainstorming what additional services, given this situation, what additional services students might need, and additional supports that their families might need in these circumstances. And so they're getting together and looking case by case at students to try to figure out, how we can support these students as well. And so there's a specific question about special ed outplacements. We are, some outplacements are still having students, but for the most part, those students that are outplaced that are home, we are working with that. Cynthia and David are working on that, and Gina, to make sure that those students are getting, the best supports possible while they are at home during an extended closure of their particular school if they're outplaced.
Thank you very much. And Diana has joined again and also said thank you. One more time, if there is anybody from the public that did want to have any questions or comments, I want to open that up.
They can hit *6.
I just wanted to add a little bit, if I could, to Dr. Daly's comments about the special education outplacements. So I have been in some conversations with our collaboratives, Team Collaborative, North Shore, and some of the private days as well. So this continues to be a conversation amongst school finance folks on various state conference calls. And I do know that certainly the collaboratives and the private days, they continue to try to do what they can to those children that are in private day placements to provide to keep the educational process going. So, they're working with, and they're continuing to compensate their staff to ensure that there's a level of education and support that is there to those children and those families, certainly.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, if there's no more comments, then we'll move on. There's no action needed on this. The next thing on the agenda is the annual town meeting warrant articles. Dr. Daly, do you want to speak about this, or Michael?
I might hand it to Michael for this particular.
Great. So I wanted to follow up at the last meeting on March 9th. We had approved a town meeting warrant article, which was essentially to create a revolving account to accept potential for solar lease payments, should we, in fact, through the RFP process, contract with the solar developer to take in lease payments. And there was understanding at that time that it was appropriate to create a revolving account to do so. And there was a caveat to that vote that took place at the March 9th meeting that, this was all pending the approval of town council. And I had yet to hear back from town council. Well, about a day or two later, following that meeting, town council did get back to me, and I believe in what's being proposed in the packet this evening is actually quite a bit different than what was voted at the March 9th meeting. So I do think it warrants discussion this evening and perhaps a re-vote take place. I will say Michael Gilberto was very involved with town council, so he certainly knows and has reviewed these articles. So it is my understanding that should there be something a little bit different that takes place than the warrant article that we approved on the March 9th meeting, it's not going to be too much of an issue that we're like a week past the deadline at this point. But the town council is essentially saying that the creation of the revolving account, he doesn't believe needs town meeting approval. He believes that the school committee, has the right to go ahead and do that through the town. But what he is actually advising is that first article, which essentially allows for sort of the transfer of a piece of property by the school committee for a different purpose than what it was intended for. So as you know, we are potentially looking to use the school roof as potential for a ground array area on the middle school, high school property. That is for a little bit of a different purpose than the educational area. So he's advising that first article be approved at town meeting should we want to move forward with this. And it essentially means it would certainly transfer the property at the middle school and the high school to the school committee, both for school purposes and also for the purposes of leasing space for solar installation. So he thinks it covers the school committee based on the use of the school building and the school ground area, which we could potentially want to contract in a lease payment with a solar developer. So that was the first proposed article change. Any questions on that before I move on?
So Michael, I have a couple questions quick, and then we can see if anybody else does as well. The first one, just to clarify, so even though we took a vote before, you don't think there's any issues with deadlines if we re-vote tonight?
Well, I don't just because Michael Gilberto has been very much involved in this from the March 9th meeting onward with town council, helping look at these articles. So he's aware that the town council has drafted and changed the original article, somewhat. So I think we're more so looking at this as a revision of that first article that was approved and submitted, based on what town council has recommended here.
And then my only specific question on the first one is whether or not some of the ands should be and or. I just don't want it to read that we have an obligation to do any of those things if we decide that they're not worthwhile in the end. And I don't know what other people's thoughts are on that one, but when I was reading it, it says that we it almost makes it an obligation for school-related purpose and to lease the rooftop space and grant easements. I just want to make sure that we have the option to do that. And I don't know, do other people have comments? Why don't we just go? Rich, do you have any comments or questions?
I have I'll leave the and versus and or to the legal scholars, but I guess my confusion on this, is this sort of a revising the transfer of the property to the school committee that was previously done, just as the normal operation or the normal assignment to the school committee, and then just adding the purpose? The wording makes it sound like this entire thing is something new, and it's really just about the leasing of the rooftop space. I'm just a little confused as to we're amending here, or what we're proposing.
So I think what town council is saying is I'll actually state, from his rationale from his email, is that he seems to be feeling that in the better side of caution to have a transfer vote for the purpose of it, for this purpose, especially since the open land area used for such installations could be thus said to no longer be available for school-related purposes, which I understand is the purpose for which the property is now held by the school committee.
Right, yeah. That's what it seemed like. So it's basically a modification of the transfer that happened probably some long time ago.
Right. So for the three draft articles, this first one is essentially a transfer vote, transferring the property at the middle school, high school to the school committee, both for school purposes and also for the purpose of leasing space to a for solar installations.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, any comments or questions, thoughts?
No, I don't have any questions at this time. No, thank you for your thoroughness.
Janine?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Diana?
Hopefully you can hear me this time. Nothing here.
Okay, so yeah, my only question, I don't know if anybody has, or Michael, if you have any thoughts on just the and or, because just like before it said it was used for school purposes, and they were worried that without changing the language that it could not allow us to use it for something else. I similarly worry that if it says it's going to be used for this purpose and another purpose, if we are theoretically limiting ourselves or obligating ourselves to do something in the future as opposed to an optional. I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's my only question when I read it.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly run that question by council, if that makes sense, before it's submitted. If that is a revision, that seems like it would make sense.
So then, why don't we have a motion on? I guess we should do them. Did we do them all together last time, Michael, or did we do separate?
Well, the last time we were only looking at one article, so we didn't. He's kind of come back with thinking that to cover ourselves, we need these three articles. So,
do you think three motions would be better then?
Yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so I'm going to ask maybe Rich if you can. Would you mind making a motion on the three different articles? And the first one,
Sure.
Ideally, if the first one could just be, or for all of them, I guess, substantially similar to this, something along those lines.
I move that the committee vote to approve the proposed article regarding the lease of land and rooftop space for solar photovoltaic facilities as presented or substantially.
Can I have a second?
We have a second.
Okay, Janine, you get all of them now. Okay, so any further discussion? Okay, Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so it passes 5-0. Rich, can I have the next motion?
I move that the committee vote to approve the warrant article regarding electricity supply on-bill credit purchase agreements as essentially submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Passes 5-0. Next, Rich.
I move that the committee vote to approve the warrant article regarding agreements for payments in lieu of taxes, substantially as submitted or substantially as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. So for the vote, Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Passes 5-0. Unanimous. Thank you.
Great. And then if I could just offer a brief update on where this stands, similarly to how I presented at the last meeting. So we did delay the opening and the availability of the RFP document. It is completed, but given the school closure, it was going to be significantly challenging to try to operate site visits and pre-bid meetings and walkthroughs with potential developers during the closure period. So we have notified all potential bidders that this has been put on hold, further delayed for further notice. At the moment, we've redone the RFP for dates that would all happen after April 7th, but we've also notified that's subject to change as well, given the fluidity of the situation with the COVID-19 virus. So we'll continue to monitor it, but this would be something that would be very challenging to do should we not be able to conduct in-face meetings and site visits and certainly visits of the property and so forth. So we'll have to just kind of monitor the situation here and see what we're able to get done over the next several weeks. Are there any questions on that?
Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, so moving on. Next we have an update and a vote on some changes to the North Shore Education Consortium, the Articles of Agreement. So, Dr. Daly, do you want to read us through this?
Sure. I'll just, in summary, this is it just needs an agreement for these following. These are the main three proposed changes. The first one is to admit the Pentucket Regional School District as a member of the consortium. The second is to establish in the language that this is a superintendent board. It is essentially always had a superintendent-only board, but this would just shore up that language a little bit. And then the third is to amend the language a little bit to speak to some of the responsibilities of board members, and really to try and get some more incentive for folks to show up and to make sure we always have a quorum for voting. I guess this has historically been a challenge in some cases, and so they wanted to add some language to offer an option for districts where you could be a non-voting member if you're unable to attend meetings regularly. But I don't think this would impact North Reading. We've been, John and Kathy before me, I know, have been regular attendees of these meetings. So they just want to firm up that language. So if folks agree, it would just be a signature then that I would get from the school committee chair, and I would send that over to them.
So, least concerning comment of all is I have a couple comments, but before doing that, I want to call on everybody else. So, Rich, do you have any comments or thoughts on this?
No, I do not.
Chris?
No, thank you.
Diana?
None here.
Janine?
No, Patrick answered the only question I would have asked.
So the only two comments that I had was a very technical one. On page 19, there's an extra Ben, B-E-E-N. So just point that out to them, I think.
Okay.
And then the only other question was, and I don't think it's a huge issue, but I understand what they're trying to do, but essentially they're taking away the voting rights of school if the superintendent can't make a certain number of meetings. And I'm not worried about North Reading, so I think it's fine to move forward with it, but I'm a little bit concerned about that, especially since we don't really know about it much. Like, there was a provision that allows, after giving 30 days notice to the superintendent, there is notice to the school committee chair as well, I believe. So I guess that sort of makes up for it, but it just seems a little bit unfair to take away the voting rights of a member district. Seems a little bit over the top if somebody can't make a certain number of meetings. But with that being said, it's just my thoughts. I'd still be in favor of it overall with the amended Ben.
Thank you. I can pass that on. I know that that's one of the concerns with adding new districts is now you're creating, a different number that's required for quorum. And so they want to try and make sure that those districts that are fully active participants that are continuously showing up will make the quorum, and I think that's the purpose. I think we'll be okay, but I will pass those thoughts on for sure.
Okay, so I guess we should just do a vote to approve the amended changes. So, Chris, would you like to make a vote? Make a motion?
Sure, yeah. I move that we adopt the, what we'll call it.
The amended changes to the NEC articles of agreement?
I vote that I move that we vote to approve the amended changes to the NEC articles.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So, any more discussion? Chris?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Janine?
Welcome, Pentucket. Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving on. We have an update on the Student Opportunity Act. Dr. Daly?
Thank you. So this is, if you recall, we've discussed this a few times, but this is the proposal that would be going forth to the Department of Education. It's actually an online form that they've created. It was originally intended for submission by April 1st, and so I had it on this agenda. I was able to get a draft of this done with Michael helping me with this as well. They because of the situation, they have extended it a little bit, but I figured it was still prudent to get it on the agenda now. So, as I mentioned to you before, we are not seeing any additional funds, but we do still have to complete this form. And so we are focusing on the kindergarten equity that we discussed. And so, we've identified it's sort of broken into these different commitments. One is this commitment to focus on, all the categories I felt were important, but I'm going to say students with disabilities and high needs are the two areas we're going to focus on the most. If we have to choose an area to focus, just because traditionally those students need that attention, and we just have the greatest number of students in those categories. Commitment 2 is about the evidence programs we're going to use, and we're going to look at that equity base with kindergarten. So for the budget piece, the number that we hit was the 69,600, which is the held harmless number. And so we're looking at our classroom and specialist teachers, teachers and paraprofessionals, and also some professional development. As I indicated here, I reminded the state that we are not receiving additional funds, but I hope that there are some matching funds possibly available that we could use to further reduce the tuitions, which could further promote equity. Our third commitment is that we will measure success. So again, we're going to look at standard success matrix, including MCAS growth scores, and then also some parent and survey data and enrollment data that we would look at. Over time, we would hopefully see, as we remove some of these barriers, that we do have some changes in enrollment as equity is promoted. And then the fourth commitment is that we are working with our schools and families to make sure that they're involved in this decision moving forward. And then we're certifying that I have met with several groups. As I mentioned here, I've met with our union presidents, and I've met with our Parent Advisory Council, which involves all the associations and organizations in the district, and shared this idea with them, and everyone was sort of unanimous that this was a good idea. I've shared it with school committee and our administrative council as well. And so the last part is just that the school committee approves this is the plan, and then this would get submitted.
Thank you very much. So I have one quick question or clarification. You mentioned it quickly there, but the $69,600 number, you said that's what we're getting. So does this document have to have in the dollar amount that we'd be receiving? Or is this a request for what we want?
Yeah, no, it's just how we're going to use the funds. So it's just a strange situation where we're really not getting additional funds, but we still have to justify how we're going to use them. So the money we're getting is the same as we typically would have received. So that's why I'm using that same dollar figure, and that is the figure that we're getting. So.
And as Dr. Daly noted, so that is the our Chapter 70 increase, which is the $30 per pupil. So that is the minimum increase that any district would be receiving is at $30 times their foundation enrollment, and that's typically been the amount North Reading receives on an ongoing basis. So it's not like we're benefiting any additionally right now from the Student Opportunities Act, given our current situation with the Chapter 78 formula, but we do have to, as Dr. Daly said, kind of go through the process and identify now where we'd spend the additional funds.
Okay, well, thank you both for putting it together, and as we've discussed at previous meetings, I think these are valid goals, especially to try to, get rid of that equity gap. I don't know if anybody else has any comments. Janine?
No, I'm all set. Just thanks for the hard work that you guys do for not getting much back in return.
Diane, any questions or thoughts?
None here. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, Dr. Daly, just a quick question for you. You'd mentioned just a minute ago, and you brought it up a while ago as well, that you have an optimism that we may be able to get from a potential grant to ease our transition towards a lower cost kindergarten or ultimately a free full day kindergarten. If I remember correctly, when you first brought this up, the idea was that it's trying to encourage, or this grant trying to encourage pre-K access, and since we're working towards full access for full day kindergarten, you're hoping that that would maybe be an avenue. Am I remembering correctly?
Correct. Yeah, I've asked that question every step of the way. They've said absolutely, if you don't have equity already in kindergarten, then you can adapt the goal for pre-kindergarten to be for kindergarten. What they've said is that there are some matching funds available if you use one of their priority goals. Now, when we actually get to that point, they usually rank and sort based upon need, and very often we don't qualify, but I will do everything in my power to apply for those matching funds, because an additional $70,000 would be helpful to start chipping away at that. So every little bit helps, and we're going to continue to push for that.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of check in about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Rich, any comments?
I could say that Chris asked my question, but that wouldn't be true, so I'll just say no. No other comments.
Okay, so Chris, I set you up the last time, so I'm gonna help you here. Chris, can I have a motion to approve the district plan for the Student Opportunity Act?
Yes, I make a motion to approve the district Opportunity Act.
I'll second.
Okay, for any discussion? Chris, how do you vote?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye, so the motion passes 5-0 unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on, we have minutes for first, the March 2nd, 2020 executive session. So perhaps, Janine, would you mind making a motion for this and seeing if there's anything that you noticed that was off?
Okay, got the microphone. I make a motion to accept the executive session minutes of March 2nd at 6 p.m. as written.
Second.
Okay, the only discussion I have at all, and this is my memory, did we actually vote on the contracts? Oh, no, we couldn't vote on the contracts. Or did we vote on the contracts in executive session to approve, and then I know we'll have to bring them before the school committee for final approval, but I don't remember if we take a vote informally or not. Do you know? Well, we can leave them as it is if nobody knows differently. I know they'll be formally presented before school committee meeting.
Excuse me, Chairman. I did think there was at least some type of a formal vote of an endorsement or an approval, at least. Is my recollection?
Yeah, it wasn't really important to accept the contract. It was just to accept the agreement, and then they're ratifying it, and then we would do it in public session. We just haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I just wonder if they should be clarified on those two contracts that we were in approval of those. That we approved those contracts preliminarily. So
I believe because it says the agreed upon, I think that's sufficient. In past, I believe how it is written in the minutes now is how it has been approached in the past. And then once we get into open session and make the motion, that's when it becomes voted upon.
that is fine with me. So we have a motion and a second. So for voting, Janine?
Who was the second, just by the way?
Rich was.
Oh, okay, sorry, I must have missed it, but aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 5-0, unanimous. And can I have the motion on the March 2nd, 2020 regular session, Janine?
And make a motion to accept the March 2nd open session meetings as written.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on this? Hearing none, I'll take the vote. Janine?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all. Budget update, I don't think there's anything. Staffing, is there?
There's no budget update, nope.
My only question on the budget is for food service, Michael, if I may, obviously the school being closed is going to have a big impact, but I think we were about $11,000 above budget. And I know if we don't meet budget, we have to come out of the school, other funds to do it. So do you think we're going to be okay with the closure of the school?
So it's a very good question, and I think a lot of this, does remain a very fluid situation in terms of the closure and how long could it potentially extend for if it does extend beyond the April 7th. So it's certainly something, I think, as we get more information and guidance from the variety of sources from the state, right now there's a lot of information that school districts are sharing collaboratively through shared Google documents in terms of what actions they're taking. But it's certainly something that, the district, myself, and Dr. Daly are monitoring and watching closely. I've certainly started to put together some financial information on what the impact of a variety of different situations could be. And, it is something, as things move forward that we would have to take certainly a harder look at. It's as we've stated before, it's certainly our priority to continue to the best of our ability, pay both salary and hourly wages to staff. But it's a little more challenging on the food service end, just given that essentially they operate in some ways like a small business with the revenue coming in for the expenses. So we'll have to continue to monitor a very fluid situation very closely. The best I can answer that right now.
I'll just say as well, thank you to Michael for that. And, as you can imagine, I asked Michael to give me sort of, to start worst case scenario, bracing for everything if we don't have this, if we don't have that. And so we have all those figures. As you can imagine, Michael did it, within about 15 minutes, he kind of had that for me. All of our, as we get anything beyond April 7th, there's a lot of question marks. And so part of what I've explained to our staff, and they've been so good with this and understanding, is that, we have to take things piece by piece because we don't know what the rest of the year is going to look like, and there's a chance that it could look different than we've ever seen a typical end of a school year. And so we've talked about, the keeping people whole is really referring to their main positions, and, things like being a spring sports coach or even some extracurriculars, that those might be impacted by other sources other than, it might look a little different this year. And I think we're not saying what it's going to look like or anything now, but everyone knows that there might be some changes, and that's allowing us the flexibility. And I was able to go into a little more detail in my calls with staff today. That flexibility and that understanding on the part of our staff, they know that they are helping out other people in the district as well and trying to keep them whole with their full-time jobs. And I really appreciate everyone just for understanding and being flexible with some of those ideas. And our goal is to try and keep everyone as whole as possible moving forward, and we're going to fight for that. But I think this also provides us that flexibility that we're not going into the red. So,
thank you very much. Any staffing issue or updates, Dr. Daly?
None at this time.
Okay, for bids and donation. Rich, I think we have one. Would you mind making the motion on that?
Sure. I move that the school committee vote to accept with gratitude a donation of $7,475 from the J. Turner Hood Parents Association to be used towards the personalized iPads at the Hood School.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that, being from the Hood.
Janine, any discussion? Go for a vote. Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Passes 5-0. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to subcommittee. And it says there's no update. The only thought is possibly if Michael could give us an update on the budget subcommittee meeting that's coming up. And specifically, I think we had talked the last time about possibly sending some of those requests out to other committee members. Is that something that is possible as well, Michael?
Hi, Chairman Buckley. Yeah, so the quick update is we have scheduled the presentation with the finalists, LED lighting companies, for Monday, a week from today, the first being at, I believe, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, 3 to 3:45, the second being at 4 o'clock in the afternoon as a budget subcommittee meeting. There's going to be other folks joining us as part of the selection committee. I can certainly share out the proposals that have been received electronically to the full committee. I am waiting on the presentations. So each finalist firm has until Friday, the close of business on Friday, to send me their presentation. And I gave the same parameters to each firm on what their 30-minute presentation should cover. It's 5 main bullets that they should cover in their presentation. So I was going to wait until I got the PowerPoint presentation and then send everything all at once, which would be by the close of business on Friday, if that works.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on. Administrative report.
Scott, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, Janine.
With the subcommittee things, I know we have FinCon coming up. Has there been any update? Is it going to be virtual? Is it postponed?
We're not sure. I have asked most meetings have all been postponed or canceled. I'm not sure about the financial planning team. I have put that question out there. As you can imagine, everyone's very distracted, and so I don't have an answer yet, but we did have one scheduled for, I believe, this Friday morning. And so, I will check in on that again. But at this time, it's not definitive whether that's going to be held.
We did have the CIPC meeting virtual, so I'm assuming finance planning will probably follow soon behind.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on. Administrative report, Dr. Daly?
Excellent. Now, I just had some great news, and I wanted to share, and it's very happy to share some normal great news. So Whitney Cleary, one of our teachers at the Hood School, for the second time now has been nominated as a semifinalist for Massachusetts Teacher of the Year. And I just think it's a wonderful honor. She's a fantastic teacher. She's a fantastic leader. I know John Bernard was involved in this recommendation, but Glenn McKay put her forward, put a lot of time and effort into her principal recommending her. I was able to be involved. I work with Whitney as a curriculum leader in my role as assistant superintendent. I've been able to visit her classrooms and see the amazing things she does as a teacher and as a leader, and it's well deserved. This alone is an amazing honor, but she is. We will have more information soon about whether she's a finalist. I had to take a few steps to kind of allow her to have some access to some presentations and attending some events if she were to be a finalist. And of course, I would allow her to miss the time because when someone has those talents, it's really worth celebrating and sharing. So I just thought that the committee would like to be informed of this great achievement.
Excellent. And I think we all know her because she always presents at the Hood.
Absolutely.
Whenever we're at the Hood. Janine?
Patrick, did you say that was her second time being nominated?
I believe she was a semifinalist also last year, yes.
Well deserved. She is awesome.
Okay. I think the whole committee is exceptionally proud of the achievement of Ms. Cleary. So thank you very much.
Great. I just wanted to note that we received word that the Digital Literacy and Computer Science grant. Dr. Downs worked very hard on this with Mr. Connolly and myself also. We got a grant for $13,440, and you have the award letter there. And this is going to help us move forward with some of our digital literacy, computer science, professional development for staff, and to help us design some of these courses. So a lot of the courses that we're working on at the middle school and high school, that, we're preparing the students for these futures in digital literacy and computer science that really don't exist now. And so there's a lot of learning that we have to do as a staff in order to advance and to move forward. And so this grant will certainly allow us to move forward in that respect, to broaden and deepen our knowledge of our staff, and then to build some real courses that are going to prepare our students for what's ahead. So we're very excited about that.
Thank you very much, and congratulations. And thank you to Dr. Downs.
Absolutely. And then my last note, I just wanted to make sure I communicated here. I know this isn't what you intended, Scott, when you said that, it might be difficult reaching some of my goals in a short period of time. I don't think you could have predicted all this. I'm very confident that I'm still on pace for all my goals, but one that's a little different with my entry plan. At this time, I would have been sending out surveys to parents about what they want from a district and all this, and I just think all that's going on has put that completely on the back burner. I think it would be the wrong tone right now, and I think the message, the communication that I want to send out now is about, what's going on now. I want to be very careful about what I'm communicating and, the emergency nature of what I'm communicating. So I am tabling that piece of it, which is my entry plan data collection, and I just wanted to let the committee know that that's a decision I made, and I hope that that's understandable at this time. I still feel like I'm going to have plenty of data to bring in and to share, and my plan will certainly be informed by all that's going on now and all that's going to happen. I mean, I think much like our seniors, like Bridget spoke to, our teachers, everyone is embracing this challenge. And I think, we were even talking today about professional development, and a lot of teachers are realizing if they're not ready to teach online, that they want to learn, because not just for a situation like this, but even just to deliver instruction in a more personalized way, to use some kind of blended approach every day. I think a lot of us in this room have done more Zooms and Google meetings than you've ever done, but you can see that you can be effective, and you can, there are positives. So I think there's a lot of positives to come out of this, and I think all of that's happening now is also going to be in my entry plan as we talk about what the future of teaching and learning and the future of education in North Reading is. But I just hope to get your understanding that I'm not going to be sending out like a survey now asking people what they want to see out of the committee, because I think the public has a lot going on right now.
I think it's fair to say that you're excused, and if we were going to try to give any challenge to a new superintendent, I think this is about as tough as a challenge as anyone could have envisioned. So you've been doing a great job with it, and certainly understand postponing parts of that.
Thank you.
I echo Scott's comment.
Okay. So for future business, this is the last thing we have, and I do have a question or two here, probably for Michael Connolly. So we were planning on having the budget workshop on April 1st. I talked to Dr. Daly today about that. I personally would still like to have that. I think it would give us an opportunity to have another update on the coronavirus and at least be able to go through our basic questions on what the budget is. But then beyond that, I know there's been a lot of discussion about budgets being pushed back because no one's been able to meet and there's so many challenges going on. I don't know if the April 13th meeting may be pushed back, and I don't know if, Michael, if you have any further updates from the state on budgets or timelines for any of this.
Yeah, it's a great question. So on the first question, I do agree with you, and Dr. Daly and I we're actually discussing this before the call went live, and I would agree with you, Chairman Buckley, that we should probably move forward as is and have the April 1st budget workshop, give the full committee a chance to kind of weigh in on the budget that was presented on March 9th, talk through some of the key priorities and current budget gap that exists, even though we may not have the most up-to-date revenue plan with all that's going on and the shifting of priorities in lieu of the COVID-19 virus. But I think there's certainly discussions that we can certainly have that would be of value in that budget workshop on the budget, and then as well as the second piece of that could certainly be COVID-19 response updates, what's happening, where are some of the financial risks, where isn't it new, because certainly in the current fiscal year, talk about those types of things. So I think it certainly is value to kind of move forward with that. In regards to the April 13th budget hearing, there's a lot of discussion, as you mentioned, with the state kind of waiving a lot of the school finance regulations around budget appropriations, allowing town meetings to occur later, allowing town meetings to occur perhaps beyond the fiscal year after June 30th. Nothing's been substantiated on that, but there's certainly a lot of conversation on that, my understanding. I've actually on some of these conference calls asked the question, because most districts are getting to the point where they would be having their public hearing and trying to meet their deadline of a public hearing before they have to officially vote a budget to move forward towards town meeting. Most districts that have an April or early May town meeting, those deadlines are now. And their public hearings would have been scheduled this week or next week. So they're certainly asking, is a virtual meeting acceptable form of a meeting, of a public hearing, given what's happening? And I have yet to see an official response on that. So my thinking is that the state will have to come down pretty quickly and rule on that. The question's been thrown out there, the question's been asked, but in the conference calls I've been on, I've yet to get an official answer on that. So I think, again, a lot of this tends to be very fluid. I think we'll get some answers in the coming weeks. So I think we're going to have to monitor it very, very closely.
Thank you very much. So for the future business for now, we will say that April 1st, 2020 at 3 p.m., we are going to have a school committee meeting, which will be the budget workshop, which I imagine will end up being, it will be held virtually as well. So information will be posted about how to participate in that if you're interested. And we'll say tentatively that we're going to have the April 13th meeting at 6:30 p.m., which again, we'll have to decide on where and when where that will be in what form. But for now, we'll keep it on the calendars, understanding that perhaps that could be kicked back depending on what happens. Like, again, it also depends on what happens with the finance planning team meetings as well. I want to make sure that we have enough time to actually have something close to a closer budget than what we have right now. So
I do want to just add one thing, Mr. Buckley. So I do plan on moving forward with the budget webinar originally scheduled for this Friday at 12 noon, March 27th. And there's about 15 registrants for that at this point in time. So that will essentially most likely be a repeat or a summary level repeat of the school committee presentation, budget presentation that took place on March 9th, maybe some updates to where the budget's at. But that I do plan on moving forward with that presentation, that webinar.
Great point. I think Mr. Queen and I might have been the only ones there last year, but it was a good. You do a good job with it, and then it's there to be sent out. It's there to be sent out to everybody afterwards as well, which is great. Anything else, Dr. Daly or Mr. Connolly?
That's all for tonight. Thank you.
All set as well. Thank you.
Okay, if I can have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Rich and Janine. Okay, so I assume there's no discussion. So for a roll call vote, Rich?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Diana?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Thank you all very much. Meeting adjourned.
Have a good evening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you all.